Welcome to Chapter Chats, where we dive into the insights and ideas behind Chuck Hodell's 5th edition of ISD from the Ground Up, a no-nonsense approach to instructional design. I am thrilled to kick off this series with Chapter 1, Welcome to the World of Learning Design. Today, we're going to be exploring the foundational concepts of learning design and instructional systems design, discuss why this field is expanding so rapidly, and uncover what sets the new generation of learning designers apart. Whether you're just discovering instructional design or are a seasoned professional, this chapter offers something for everyone. So let's dive right in. So learning design and instructional systems design are central concepts in this book. Can you share how you define these terms and how they maybe might be distinct from each other?
Well, there's a big discussion about the terms learning design and instructional design. And I think from the perspective of the book, and if you're using this, taking a grad course, PhD course, whatever you're doing, and you've heard these terms, you've heard ISD, that goes back, many years, many decades. Learning design is kind of a new terminology. And some would say learning design is more learner-focused, instructional design is more teacher-focused. I don't buy into that. I think I look at these two terms as synonymous. I use them both the same way at the same time. And throughout this book, you're going to find that I've used them interchangeably. And we've done that on purpose because we don't see the distinction. We don't see a distinction enough for it to be part of what we're doing in this particular book. So if you think about learning design, you think about instructional design, really what you're doing is focusing on mastery. So however you get to mastery is part of instructional design, is part of learning design. And as we get farther down in the book and we talk about design plans and objectives and evaluations and all the things that designers do, you're going to find the distinctions are almost non-existent. So learning design, instructional design, call it what you will. If you work with a group or you just feel one way or the other about the terms, go ahead. But throughout the book, we use them interchangeably.
Okay. The book describes learning design as a growing field. What do you see as the main drivers behind its growth, and how are these impacting the role of a learning designer today?
Well, I think what's changed in the world of instructional design and learning design is this notion that to be good in instructional design, you need to have an advanced degree, master's, PhD, or something like that. You have to have 30 years experience doing it. You have to be in a training department. That's nonsense. And what I call new gen designers are people that take some instructional design skills and then they use them in whatever else they're doing. And it doesn't matter what field. It doesn't have to be instruction at all. And one of the biggest places I see this happening is in the medical field. So in healthcare, many of my students now are MDs and PAs and RNs and all of those kind of folks that are working in the field of healthcare. And they want to find better ways to communicate with patients and families and coworkers and teach in medical schools and do those things, yet they have never had any introduction or exposure to instructional design or learning design. And what I'm finding is now there is a lot of interest outside of the old schools of, K-12 and whatever about designing courses. People that are professionals in other fields that are in no way associated with education or training want to be able to do better education and training. So these new gens, this is where the interest is. And this is where, frankly, most of my students come from now. Is not from the old traditional worlds that you would think. And what I certainly had in 30 years of teaching in grad school, it's not those audiences anymore. They're certainly part of it, but they're not exclusive to that. So now we're seeing this new gen. These are people who just want to do better stuff. They want to teach a better course. They want to do this or that. They want to share their professional interests and the things that they think are important with those that work with them or for them. And that's where the growth is coming from.
You explore learning design across various fields, from K through 12 education to first responder training. Could you talk about how these environments shape the learning design process differently?
Well, one thing you find as an instructional designer is that each scenario is different. Each population, each content, your delivery options, all these things are different. in each of your projects, unless you work in a very large scale organization where you have a set population, a set way you implement courses, and you do this, you do that. But all of these things are different. And this is where learning instructional design is so important, because you now appreciate the fact that these do have different outcomes based on different particulars. So this whole nation of chaos and everything that goes with it that I keep talking about, which really makes sense if you think about it, all of these particulars are different in each particular case of each course we design. So whether it's for healthcare, whether it's for apprentices, whether it's for this or that, whether it's a community group, maybe you're just teaching art courses or yoga or Pilates or something. These are things that are all particular to your particular interest and knowledge base. So what you're going to find is they're all tied to that. They're all part of this larger thing. And the differences are really specific to a particular population, content, and delivery options.
Nice. Now, new gen learning designers play a unique role in the field. What qualities or skills do you think set this new generation apart from their predecessors?
Well, I think the difference is that they're not necessarily wanting to learn instructional design. It's not a big deal to them. It's something that they're going to use as a tool, a larger tool. They're not going to do it full time. They're not going to ever go into it commercially or an adjunct basis or whatever. What they're going to do is take what they need to share with others and present that information in a better way, in a more professional way. So if you think about it, how many times do professionals have to make presentations or teach courses or do whatever? Every field has that.
Yeah.
Whether you're the CEO of a company or whether you're just starting out as an apprentice, you're still sharing your knowledge with other people. And the higher up you get, the more responsibility you get. It gets to the point where I can't just stand in front of these people with a slide deck anymore. I need to think about how I can actually make this effective and efficient. How can I get them to retain this information? How can I change the state of the art in my profession to a better state of the art? And all these things are based on some very simple instructional design principles, like this whole notion of objectives that are observable and measurable, and looking at outcomes. How can I actually look at evaluation? Because many times for certification and other things, you have to have some documentation of your evaluation of your learners. So many times people get to the point where, how do I document this stuff? How do I prove that I took something and made something more of it? So you find these mixed fields that you would never think are associated in any way with training and education. And they are now very interested in course design, learning design, instructional design, because it makes their jobs more efficient and effective. And they can really impact those that they work with.
Good points. Last question. For people considering instructional design as a career, what might surprise them most about the field based on what you've covered in this first chapter of your book?
I think what we find is there are very few instructional designers start out as instructional designers. They start out as subject matter experts. They start out as teachers. They start out as something else. I was a subject matter expert. I was a teacher of sorts. Knew nothing about instructional design, never heard of it. And when I first started learning about it and taking courses in it, it all just lit for me. It all made so much sense. And systems theory in itself is just something I could spend lots of time thinking about. Everything's related to everything else. And as you first start out, you think, oh, I don't know any of this stuff. I'm not going to write objectives. I can't do this. Evaluation tests. I can't do this. Gagne, who? And you start out that way. It's a little intimidating. It was for me because I was taking classes from people that were much brighter than I was and certainly had much more experience, like Dr. J. Marvin Cook, who was really one of the godfathers of this whole field. I had the honor of working with him. But we all start out from this place, and we start out from a different place than instructional design. And that's okay. That's what happens. You and I are perfect examples of that. And most of the people that read these books and are involved in this field come from something else. And that's okay. Just get up to speed. It's going to be fine. A lot of the things you've done you didn't know had names. A lot of the things that you were doing that you weren't sure about that could be done better because here's lots of experience to show you how to do that better. And I think in this first chapter, just kind of just sit back and take it all in and think, okay, I got a lot of learning to do, but you know what? Chuck started from here. Denise started from here. That's okay. I'll get there.
Indeed. Thanks so much for sharing your insights with us, Chuck. It's been a pleasure. And thanks for everyone tuning in to this first chapter of Chapter Chats. There will be more coming, so tune in. Thanks so much.